As students across the country walk out of school to demand a change in gun legislation, the Senate Judiciary Committee focused on the institutional failures that held the door open for an attack at Stoneman Douglas.
The FBI could have and should have done more to investigate the information it was provided prior to the shooting. While we will never know if we could have prevented this tragedy, we clearly should have done more.
Yet despite the fact that each of these agencies were fully authorized and empowered to take action well before tragedy struck, not one of them fulfilled their duty. The testament of their failure is 17 dead children and teachers, 17 more with life-altering injuries, a burden we must bear forever.
Now, Senator Marco Rubio also spoke at that hearing, saying the tragedy was a result not only of government agency failures at the local and federal level, but of vulnerabilities in existing laws.
Senator Rubio, however, might not go as far as our next guest in calling for a prohibition of assault weapons. There is an effort right now to amend the state constitution to ban the sale of assault weapons.
Chris Smith is a former state senator from South Florida. He currently serves on the State Constitutional Revision Commission. At a commission meeting yesterday, he added a proposal for an assault weapons ban. And Chris Smith joins us. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me here.
Now you're on this Constitutional Revision Commission, which meets every 20 years to look at the Constitution, the Florida Constitution.
Yes.
How should we change it? How would you like to change the Florida Constitution when it comes to guns?
Well, one, I would like to ban the sale and transfer of assault weapons here in the state of Florida. I think that you can't have people going to these gun shows. We shouldn't have people going to the War Memorial gun shows and buying assault weapons, weapons that were intended for military, weapons that are just there to kill multiple people. And I don't think we need that here in Florida.
Now, what do you say to the gun advocates who are going to say, well, how do you describe an assault weapon?
Well, we describe it. We have a long definition within it. But one thing, if it takes more than 10 rounds, if it takes take more than 10 rounds that can shoot automatically, we're banning that.
So there's a legal definition.
Yeah, there's a legal definition that we've gone through, and I've worked with a couple of scholars to craft a definition to go after what we're after.
Okay.
So talk a little bit about this process. Do you think you're going to get enough of the vote within your commission?
Well, you know, I played high school basketball, and my coach said you miss 100% of the shots you don't try. So I'm at least going to try. I think of the 37 members, there's enough of them that are not elected officials, that are not worried about their next primary or worried about the NRA or others, that you know, we have an opportunity to try and sway them. And if I can just get 22 of them, 22 out of the 37 to agree to this, we can put it on the ballot. Because this year, 160 legislators talked about it in Tallahassee. But I want to give the 30 million Floridians a chance to at least discuss it and vote on it this year.
So that people can understand the process. Normally, you can put an issue on the ballot for a constitutional amendment through petitions.
Yes.
They have to collect thousands and thousands of petitions, which we all know is a very costly process.
Yes.
You are on this commission that has this unique power. The unique power to put this on the ballot, but again, you need 60% of the vote. How are you going to, who's going to pay a campaign against the NRA, which I'm sure is going to finance a campaign against it?
Well, I mean, look at the stories you were already talking about. We have thousands and thousands of kids that are walking today, walked out, and are protesting. You have parents. Yesterday in St. Pete, we had a commission meeting, and a bus of parents from Douglas High School came over to speak. So trust me, if we get this on the ballot, there's enough people, and it's just a blessing that it's timely that we're having the constitutional revision when this happened, so we can get straight to the ballot now. I know there's a petition method that's being started by a couple of mayors that are looking at the 2020 ballot, but it's just a blessing that I'm on it now and can possibly get it on now. And if we get it on right now, it's polling at 62%. You need 60% to pass it. But with the energy you see from the young people in this state, the energy you see from the parents in this state, the energy you see from this nation, I think we have enough energy and right-thinking people to defeat any kind of opposition from the NRA.
Not to rain on your parade, but what if it's not successful? What's next then? Where do you go from there? If you try in earnest to get this done, it doesn't succeed, then what?
Well, we try with the legislature again. You got to keep trying. I mean, after 16 years in the legislature, yeah, it took me plenty of years to pass one measure. So if we don't get it on the ballot this time, we'll try by petition for 2020. If we get it on the ballot and it doesn't pass, then we try with the legislature. But we got to keep trying. We have 17 real strong reasons to keep trying. A month ago, today, 17 reasons to keep trying in this state. And that was only at Douglas. I mean, when we talk about Pulse and we talk about some of the carnage in our streets throughout this state, we got to keep trying.
Now, you served in the legislature, you said,
yes,
for 16 years. How important was that bill that the Republicans actually went against the NRA? And although many people say it's just the first step, but how big a step was it, do you think?
And I'll give them credit. It was a good step. It was a good step. I mean, they had something in the bill that I really don't agree with. That's putting the more guns in the schools. But by raising the age and putting some of the things that NRA doesn't like, I mean, that was a big step, and I was shocked to see some people that I served with actually vote against the NRA, something that I hadn't seen during my whole time there. I think the bill was half good, half bad, but it was just shocking. But it shows you what the power of the people are now. When they look out and see the emotion of these kids, when they look out and see the emotion of these parents, it shows you what can happen. You had long-time A-rated NRA legislators actually voted for something that the NRA didn't like.
Quickly, before we let you go, let's talk about the NRA quickly and talk about why it has so much power. Is it because of the money, or is it because the voting power?
It's because of the voting power in a Republican primary. The NRA doesn't give a lot of money to candidates on the state level in Florida, but they have loyal voters and active voters. So if you're, particularly if you're in a primary, especially Republican primary, that's a large voting block, and that's why a lot of my Republican friends have a hard time voting against them. And then even in the general, I mean, it counts a little bit, but it's really hard in a Republican primary to be against the NRA. We've seen them take out judges, we've seen them take out other members, and it's not the dollars that they spend, but it's their loyal voters that come out in these primaries.
And there are a lot of them. Chris Smith on the State Constitutional Revision Commission proposing a ban on assault weapons. We'll keep following that story. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.